So now I'd like to introduce our last speaker for the session, Erik Upschulte. Erik Upschulte is an AI researcher at Research Center Jülich, specializing in scalable vision models for instance segmentation. And he in general develops methods for mapping neurons and other cells in the human whole brain scans containing billions of instances. So we're looking forward to your talk.
Thank you very much, Anna. Good morning, everyone, also from my side. Like you heard, this is about contour proposal networks, our latest version of it. And this is basically our contour-based instance segmentation framework. Before we have a look at the model itself, I'll give you a quick recap of what contour-based instance segmentation models are good at, what they can do, and what they can't do. Okay, so I think the title is a bit messed up. I don't know why, but okay, we're gonna live with it. So why do contour-based models matter today? We have very good segmentation models like segment anything. So why work on contour-based segmentation? And contour-based really means a series of XY coordinates representing the outline of individual instances. And the main answer to that is efficiency and low cost. So here you can see a simple example of output representations. So how do you represent in your output the segmentations of individual instances? On the left side, you can see what mask former-based models like segment anything use. So these are mask stacks. Each instance has its own slice in this cube, basically. So consider you have 1,000 by 1,000 pixel image as an input. You want to segment 1,000 instances. That gives you over 1 billion values, takes 2 gigabytes of storage in the GPU, and that's just the output, not even the model that gets you there. In contrast, you can do a very similar thing with contours for just 1.6 megabyte. So it's 1,300 or 1,337 times more efficient, and that's really the core. In terms of segmentations, these are some examples of segmentation and also annotation policies. A lot of the times, the way models segment depends on decisions made during data annotation. So for car segmentation, which this is an example of, on the left-hand side, you can see the so-called modal segmentations. You only segment what you're actually seeing. So you end up with these stripes of mask components. For some downstream tasks, that is exactly what you need, but that is not really compatible with contours. On the right-hand side, you can see amodal segmentation, so one contour outlining the entire object, which is, for example, good for morphology studies and things like that. If you have boundary occlusion, it doesn't really matter which decision you make during annotation. Contours are basically fine with either one. And regarding overlaps, this is very common in biomedical imaging, for example. Some labs do not annotate overlapping instances. Other labs do, and contours are also fine with either one. Okay, with that out of the way, this is basically the model. So it's a contour proposal network version 2, of course based on version 1, which we published in 22. And today we look at 2 new components, which is the contour refinement transformer and the score refinement. So let's have a look. This is the refinement part. On the left-hand side, you can see where exactly this lies in the model architecture. So initially, you have an input image. From that, we predict the so-called contour proposals. So this is a large set of contours that already produce quite good segmentations of the instances. But to make sure that you can actually represent complicated shapes well, and the segmentations are as good as they can be, we also use contour refinement. And how we do that, you can see on the right-hand side. So if you think about what features might be relevant to improve the fit of a contour, it's very likely going to be the features at the exact points where the contour points are defined. So what we do is we take a feature map, like you can see here on the left, and we read out the features at each contour point coordinate. And these we collect. You can do this as well with feature pyramids, of course. We project that into a token space, feed it into a transformer, and this transformer can really focus on individual contours. So one batch item is one contour, so we have maximum modeling capacity with the whole transformer for each contour so that you can even model complicated shapes. And the transformer outputs the vertex residuals. You can simply add them to the coordinate series and end up with an improved contour. You can do this iteratively, again, to make sure the contours are as good as they can be. The other part was score refinement and also assignment. A model like that outputs mainly two types of outputs or predictions. One is, of course, the contours, and the other one is score or detection scores. You have one detection score for each contour, and that basically determines whether you keep the contour for your final set of contours that make up the segmentation result, or whether you completely ignore the predicted contour. There are many ways on how you can define these scores, and you can see here on the left side the illustration for it. So each box basically is one of those predicted contours, and right next to it, the column, these are predicted scores. The contours, during training, we assign them to instances. For example, the upper three contour proposals should segment instance number 0. And you have also 3 scores. And we train these scores in such a way that there's only one high score, ideally of 1 or 100%, for the single contour proposal with the lowest contour loss. So we only want to keep the best contour segment or contour proposal out of these instance groups. That can work quite well. If one contour is better than the other, then the model can learn to distinguish that and keep the better one. But of course, sometimes all of the contours look good, and then the decision may only depend on annotation noise, for example. And then the model is really uncertain on what to do here. So we have to threshold these values, and that is of course difficult now because these are calibrated differently for different instances. So how we solve this is we apply what we call score refinement. And again, for score proposals, the task basically was to pick the best proposal according to the training distribution. But for score refinement, rephrase this slightly, but this makes a really important difference. There we say pick the proposal you think is best. And why this is different is because for the second question, or the second task rather, the model has everything it needs to make a correct decision in its own feature space, so no external dependencies. And that is why this problem is completely tractable, and we get a very good binarization as a result. This is what this looks like in practice. On the top left, you can see an input image. Right next to it, there are score proposals. And as you can see, there are a lot of mid-confidence results and a lot of uncertainty, especially where the red arrow points to. There is one outlier instance. This is an overlapping instance, which the model didn't know exists from the training distribution on this domain. And the model didn't really know what to do with that. So there's a lot of uncertainty in the score proposals. But already the first score refinement step yields a very good binarization, and over several iterations also gets, with some sort of feature space reasoning, the outlier instance correctly. So it detects that as well, but that takes several iterations of the refinement. And as you can maybe read, all of the instances except this outlier have exactly or close to 100% detection score. So that's good because we don't have to rely on specific score thresholds, which are usually heuristically chosen. In terms of segmentation benchmark, we tested against SAM 1 and 2, Salpos, Hoovernet, and CPN version 1 on many different data sets, and we're basically competitive across the board, which we, of course, were quite happy to see. Efficiency is one of the core setting points, so we tested that as well in terms of latency, which is the time each model takes or requires to produce segmentations. The baselines required hundreds of milliseconds or even over 1,000 for the segmentation of 1,000 instances, whereas contour-based models only need 50 to 70 milliseconds. In terms of GPU memory requirement, for example, the bottom line with the Hero L backbone, you only need 2.2 gigabytes of memory for 1,000 instances. And with the same backbone, the exact same backbone in SAM2, you need, on the other hand, 26 gigabytes of memory. Sorry? Oh, okay. Right, and that makes really the difference between professional, expensive hardware and commodity hardware that runs basically anywhere. And finally, these are some segmentation examples. For example, Omnipose, which is a biomedical data set, worked quite nicely. Sam had some failure modes in this domain. Then there's X-Wheel dataset from DLR segmenting vehicles and UAV imaging. That also worked quite well, and that also uses A-model segmentation, which I was quite happy about seeing this. So some cars may be occluded by trees, but they still get the full car shape right, basically. Cytodark is brain imaging, segmenting neurons and other cells with multiple thousands of instances per image, and that works quite well as well. And yeah, I think that's it. Time is up. If you are interested in this, definitely feel free to reach out. Otherwise, thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. We have time for a question. Yes, in the front here, Daria. Yeah.
Thanks, very cool. I was wondering, for case of cellular segmentation where you benchmarked against cell pods, that would be still nuclear segmentation, right? Or it's possible to add several, for example, nuclear stainings and then, membrane stainings, and then get the whole contour of the cell. Have you tested that, or is it something you want to look into?
So generally, yes. I mean, what you segment really depends on the kind of training data you use. In this case, we chose one collection which we didn't require text prompts for, but we also have text prompt-based models with which you can basically include all of the segmentation cases because you can tell the model what to segment. And with these kinds of models, which are based on this architecture, you can basically segment anything you like.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. Any further questions? Okay. Well then, thank you again, Eric, and also
Thank you very much.
thanks all the speakers of this session.